Hey everybody, it's Mike Freener here with On-Call Compliance Solutions, and I'm back with another compliance tip of the week. Today we're talking about CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.8. Limit unsuccessful logon attempts, because you shouldn't just let people brute force their way into your network or your life. So hey, if you're a defense contractor who is trying to stay compliant but feels like cybersecurity rules were written in an ancient lost language like hieroglyphics, don't worry, you're in the right place. Here at On-Call Compliance Solutions, we turn compliance confusion into CMMC success, baby. Yes! Let's jump into it. All right, let's start with a real-world scenario. See, I like that intro. That was actually pretty slick. They're changing things up on me a little bit. I have no idea what they're really doing. I just read the scripts here. But I will say that was a good one. Hey, you're at home, and some mystery person keeps jiggling your front door handle, trying different keys over and over again. Super creepy, right? Maybe they're from Amazon. Oh, yeah, I like Amazon people. They're probably all right. I'm sure all of them are just perfect citizens. Now, imagine it happening to your company's systems, except instead of some guy with a lockpick, it's a hacker. Or worse, your own employees forgetting their passwords for the 1,000,000th time. You know, that guy. That's why CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.8 exists. It ensures that after a certain number of failed login attempts, the system locks down the account to prevent unauthorized access and just simply says, "No way, Jose. What door handle? You can't pick what's not there, including boogers." Let's break down how to solve for each assessment objective so you can tell I have kids. Let's break down how to solve for each assessment objective so you can ace your CMMC Level 2 audit and sleep better at night. Assessment objectives and how to solve them. Set a limit on unsuccessful logon attempts. Documentation required. Access control policy stating how many failed logins are allowed before lockout. System security plan, which is going to describe how login attempts are managed. An account lockout policy details lockout time and reset procedures. Technical implementation, of course, you want to set failed login limits in Windows Group Policy or your identity management system. There's lots of places to do this. Let's say you're running Intune, you can set it there. You can set it all over, Azure government environment. You can set it in your local environment. Even local group policy, I believe, has a setting there. Don't quote me. You could probably chat GPT for the answer. Enforce account lockout after 3 to 5 attempts. I think that's a pretty good margin. Require IT intervention or a time delay before unlocking accounts. I'll tell you, my recommendation is I lock them out for 24 hours because it's really, really hard to brute force a password if you got to wait 24 hours in between attempts. Yeah. Example, company once had no limit on failed logins. A hacker used a brute force attack to try thousands of passwords, actually millions of passwords, why not? And eventually got in. Oops. Now I will tell you, why did ransomware become so popular? Well, the reality of ransomware is, ransomware's early successes used to be because it was common practice for people to leave remote desktop protocol available to the outside world through port forwarding, and then they had no account lockout policy set. Basically, people from foreign countries or even local domestic people could just sit there and use Jack the Ripper or any number of brute force password tools to just continuously hit these people over the internet until they got in. Look, I know from firsthand experience. Believe me, we learned the hard way. But the good news is we learned as many ways as we could, and, well, there's no better way to learn than in the trenches. Fighting for your life. Solution, set a reasonable limit. Too high and you're vulnerable. Too low, and you lock out your CEO every Monday morning. And I feel so bad for my people on my team because when I have a technical support issue, I'm like worse than an end user because I think I know what the fix is. And I'll be like, hey, go do this, or this is wrong. And then they're like, man, that CEO dude's calling again. Ugh, I was so in the middle of doing something much more important. And they probably were. Not. Automatically lock out accounts after exceeding the limit. Documentation required. Incident response plan. Describe what happens when an account gets locked out. User access. By the way, it doesn't have to be in an incident response plan. It could be, an automated action. User access control procedures defines who can reset locked accounts. Privileged account use policy ensures admin accounts have stricter lockout controls. And of course, technical implementation. Want to configure Microsoft Entra ID, Azure AD, or Active Directory to disable accounts temporarily after too many failed logins. And even in some cases, you want to maybe configure it for a really long period of time to be locked out. It just depends on how you want to administer your system. Implement multi-factor authentication to reduce lockouts caused by weak passwords. Love this. MFA is required anyway in most cases, so you really Really, MFA is a big key to this. And then, of course, enable alerts so IT gets notified when an account gets locked out. Now, we had a user interestingly ask us the other day. They said some consultants that they were working with said that they didn't need to have password complexity turned on because they were using multi-factor authentication. I know that's not this control, but I will tell you that is false. Kind of ties in here with that point of how access control is done. There are separate controls mandating that password complexity be turned on. Now, real world example, a contractor once set their account lockout policy to only 2 failed attempts, 1 typo, and boom, locked out. Their IT guy had 30 password reset requests every single day of their lives, eventually lost all of their hair, and died a very slow, painful death, resetting passwords until their final hours. RIP. Solution? 3 to 5 failed attempts is pretty solid, with a 15-minute lockout. Not too harsh, but enough to keep hackers out. Now for me, I don't like the 15-minute lockout, but that's a good minimum. I like 24 hours, and you know what? I gotta tell you, there's gonna be your Karens who are going to lock themselves out every day, all right? It's very rare, honestly. They get it eventually. But I find that for 24 hours, that's more than enough time. And also, sometimes you kind of want to have to be called to attention if somebody locks themselves out. You want to know what's going on with the users. 15 minutes is a little bit weak sauce. Maintain logs of failed logins and logouts. This is a big one. We look over this pretty frequently. Audit logging policy specifies what logs are kept and for how long. Security monitoring procedures explain how failed login attempts are reviewed. An incident handling policy covers actions taken when repeated failed logins occur. Next, enable Windows event logging and SIEM tools like Splunk, Logarithm, or Microsoft Sentinel. I'm not advertising one of those. They just happen to be in my script to track failed logins. Again, we love Rocket Cyber. There's lots and lots and lots of tools out there. Set up alerts for repeated lockouts. This could indicate a brute force attack. I can tell you firsthand, it's not even unusual that we go and we do a vulnerability scan on a client network, and all of a sudden, again, if this is their first time with us, we will see tons of failed logins, and then we'll have to go work with them to track that down very quickly to make sure they're not under an active attack. We have definitely found active attacks going on. It's pretty scary. Review logs weekly or monthly to spot trends. Like employees who always forget their passwords, let's talk to the users and find out what's going on. One company failed their CMMC audit because they had no login attempts logged. They couldn't prove compliance. So we have to log it. That's just part of it. What's the solution? Enable logging, review it, and keep records for at least 90 days. Final checklist to pass your CMMC audit. To pass CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.8, you need a documented policy on failed login limits, the technical controls that enforce automatic account lockouts, logging and monitoring to track login attempts and lockouts, and regular reviews to catch suspicious activity. You know what I'm talking about. Don't be sketchy. If you're missing any of these, your CMMC assessment is going to be a pretty painful experience. And more importantly, I just want you to know it doesn't have to be this painful. You can just call us and we'll walk you right through it. No problem. Hey, and on call, we take defense contractors just like you who are banging their head against the wall, trying to figure out CMMC, trying to figure out DFARS, NIST, ITAR, EAR. When it comes to information security and compliance for defense contractors, if that nightmare got dumped on you like a seagull on a sunny day, we can help you become an on-call compliance hero for your company. That's what we're all about. Saving the day and making you the hero. At the end of the day, we love helping our clients figure out compliance and then use it as a competitive selling proposition to win more defense work with higher profit margins. That is really what makes us tick. So hey, if you need help, our compliance experts are always on call for you. Visit CMMCComplianceSecrets.com or check out the description below for links to get help right now. Literally, you could be on the phone with us as we speak. If you love this content, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and let us know in the comments what part of CMMC compliance is driving you crazy, like all the changing rules. Until the next compliance tip, my friends, stay safe and secure out there, and hit us in the comments below to let us know what you'd like to know more about when it comes to information security and compliance. I'll see you on the next one.